Good afternoon. I would like to call the meeting of the Assembly Committee on Revenue to order. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Assembly members Considine, De Silva, Flanagan, Gallant, Goulding, Gray, Hafen, Wynn, O'Neill, Roth, Chair Backus.
And I am present. Please mark Assembly members De Silva, Flanagan, Goulding, and Hafen present when they arrive. I'm not sure if you heard, but Assembly member Gallant is present as well. With that, thank you everyone who's appearing today in Assembly Revenue here in Carson City, in Las Vegas, as well as those that are listening online. Just before we begin, I just want to go over some housekeeping matters for those that have not been in Assembly Revenue up to today's hearing. When you come up to speak, just please state your name clearly for the record, especially those that are calling in on the telephone line during public comment, or should you be giving testimony in support, opposition, or neutral to the bill we'll be hearing this evening. We would just ask that you state your name slowly and spell it, just so that we capture your name before you jump off the telephone line. With that, today's agenda includes two presentations. We'll have a presentation from the Department of Motor Vehicles, as well as the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada. In addition, we will hear one bill in this committee, Assembly Bill 28, which revises provisions related to transportation. With that, I would like to ask our presenters from Department of Motor Vehicles to make their way to the table. And once you get set up and are ready, please feel free to begin. And also, if questions are posed to you all, always feel free to go directly to our members.
Good evening. For the record, Angela Smith-Lamb, Deputy Director, Department of Motor Vehicles. Joining me today at the table, we have Sean Sever. He's our legislative liaison. And to my left, Bethany Musselman. She's the administrator of fiscal operations. And to her left, Karen Stoll is the administrator of our motor carrier division. Many of you have heard this presentation. I promise it's shortened, and we're going to get into more of the weeds. I'll set the stage just as a reminder of our high-level operation, and then let our team take over and give you more details about tax and revenue collections. So DMV is comprised of 7 divisions supported by the Director's Office. We have 1,292 fantastic employees at 18 offices, and 2 focus on commercial services. We partner with our AAAs and county assessors to do vehicle registrations. In addition, we have more than 50 kiosks statewide that aren't on this slide, but can be found on our website. The department, as a reminder, the department completes about roughly 8 million transactions annually for an average of about 28,000 business transactions a day. About 5 million of those are financial transactions. DMV is primarily funded with highway funds, fees, cost allocations, and commissions from fees collected by the department. While DMV receives general funds for automatic voter registration, it's a small bit of our funding. And per NRS, we're subject to a cap on the amount of highway funds that we can appropriate for operations. The cap is at 22, has been at 22%. It's at 27 now for our transformation efforts. We are looking to extend that cap to 27% through the biennium. collection of fees is done through our various customer-facing divisions, through multiple channels, in office, through our web portal, through different, we take different kind of funds to collect those fees: check, cash, credit card, e-check, ACH, EFT. And our motor carrier division collects more than half of our highway funds, primarily with the collection of fuel taxes. And while our administrative services division collects some of the revenue, they are responsible for the reconciliation and distribution of the funds collected. In FY24, DMV collected roughly $1.8 billion. The $1.8 billion collected by the department annually is divvied up as reflected on this slide, with a significant portion of those funds collected going to the county's school districts and highway fund. DMV receives a portion of the fees for operational expenses at just around 6%. While DMV experienced a dip in revenues during the pandemic, we've seen continued growth over the last several fiscal years, with an increase of revenue of 4.5% over FY23. And based on current trends, DMV is projecting overall revenue growth of 2.89% over the next biennium. DMV will continue to refine projections or Blue Book and update projections on current trends in approximately March or April. And these charts illustrate DMV's funding sources for operations. As previously identified, over 46% of DMV's funding comes from highway funds, but more than half of the funding coming in at just over 53% is from other revenue sources such as fees and commissions. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Bethany Musselman to provide more details on overall revenue and BGST collections.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Bethany Musselman. Revenue collected by DMV is made up of various registration and licensing fees, with a little over 36% being distributed to the Highway Fund. 85% of the revenue collected is from taxes, including governmental services tax, sales tax, and fuel taxes. I'll give a quick overview of governmental services tax and then hand it over to Karen Stoll for an overview of fuel taxes. Basic governmental services tax, also known as BGST, is collected during the registration of a vehicle and is calculated on the depreciated value of the vehicle. The calculation is dependent on the vehicle type, weight, age, and MSRP. Heavyweight commercial vehicles also take the number of axles into account. The amount collected for BGST is split into 5 categories: DMV commission of 6%, highway fund allocation, which is determined using similar vehicle information, school operating funds, school debt funds, and the county in which the vehicle is based. The percentages for school operating, school debt, and the county are set by the Department of Taxation and are updated annually. Supplemental governmental services tax, also known as SGST, is calculated in the same manner as BGST, but at a quarter of the amount. SGST is split with 6% retained by DMV for commission, and the remainder sent to the county in which the vehicle is based. Currently, SGST is only collected by Churchill and Clark counties. And with that, I will hand it to Karen Stoll.
Good afternoon, committee members. For the record, my name is Karen Stoll, Administrator of Motor Carrier Division of DMV. Fuel taxes are collected monthly by us from licensed fuel suppliers. Suppliers collect the fuel taxes and fees from entities they distribute the fuel to, and then they file the fuel tax return and pay fuel taxes, cleanup fees, and inspection fees. For fiscal year 2024, we collected about $873 million, of which about $663 million was motor fuels and $210 million was special fuels. Since the mid-1950s, for gas and for diesel, the suppliers have been allowed to retain 2% of the taxes to cover the cost of collection of the tax and of compliance with this act, and the suppliers handling losses occasioned by evaporation, spillage, or other similar causes. In 2024, This 2% was approximately $16,130,000. Gasohol fuel tax rates were last updated in 1991 for the 17.65 part of that 23-cent total, and the 1980s for the 3.6 cent and the 1.75 cent. The county 1 cent also in the mid-1980s was last updated. The county 4 to 9 cent was in 1991. Jet fuel tax rate was updated last in 1987. In 1991, counties were able to enact option jet fuel taxes up to 4 cents per gallon. We collect about $150 million annually in the state's 12.65 cents for gas and gasohol. Collections for gas and gasohol for the 5 cent per gallon is about $59 million annually. We collect the fuel taxes enacted by the counties too, such as fuel index taxes and option taxes. The distribution allocation for the county 5.65 cents from the state's 23 cents motor fuel taxes is distributed by allocation percentages set forth by demographic, population, and road miles reports provided to us annually by the Department of Taxation and the Department of Transportation. We collect approximately $63 million annually of the 5.35 cents per gallon. In addition, counties enacted option fuel taxes for gasohol from 4 cents per gallon to 9 cents per gallon. Collections are approximately $106 million annually. And there is a 1 cent per gallon fuel tax for gas and gasohol at approximately $12 million annually. Included in the previously mentioned distribution for motor fuel is jet fuel and aviation fuel. The state jet fuel, we collect approximately $4.4 million, and the county option, $12.6 million annually. For aviation fuel, approximately $35,000 annually, and the county option, $14,000 annually. We collect special fuel state tax annually at approximately $133.6 million. As of fiscal year 2024, 10 of the 15 counties that are eligible to enact the diesel county option fuel tax from Senate Bill 48 in the FY 2019 session have done this at 5 cents per gallon. As of fiscal year 2024, we collect approximately $7 million annually. Clark and Washoe counties have both enacted fuel indexing on gasohol and special fuels. Collections for Clark and Washoe counties were approximately $268.6 million in index taxes in fiscal year 2024. Of that, gas in Clark was 64% of that total, and Washoe made up 36%. For special fuels, which includes diesel, Clark County represented 54% of that, and Washoe 46%. So overall, gas index taxes are at 81% of the total, and special fuels at 19%. We also collect the petroleum cleanup fees. Currently, we collect approximately $13.7 million annually for the cleanup fees, which we send to the Nevada Division of Environmental Protection. These are paid to Nevada by the fuel suppliers with the monthly fuel tax returns and payments. It is assessed on fuels imported or manufactured in Nevada. The Petroleum Fund is administered by the Nevada Division of Environmental Protection. They pay claims out of this fund that were submitted to them by those who are participants in that fund. NDEP is the subject matter expert on this fund. If there are excess funds in this fund at the end of the fiscal year, amounts over $7.5 million after everything that's allowed are paid, that's pursuant to NRS 445C.350, the overage is sent to the fund referenced in NRS 408.242, or to NDOT, used exclusively for the construction, reconstruction, improvement, and maintenance of public roads. That's broken down and distributed on July 1st and December 31st of each year, and NDOT will allocate 70% of that money in the account to a regional transportation commission in a county whose population is 700,000 or more, 20% of the money in the account to a regional transportation commission in a county whose population is 100,000 or more, but less than 700,000, and 10% of the money in the account to the department for use in counties that have a population of less than 100,000. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to respond to any questions.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Members, do we have any questions? I'm going to start with Assembly Member Flanagan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I apologize for having to get to this meeting late. I was in education. And I'm sorry I missed a bulk of your presentation, or at least hearing you present it. But my question, if you can help me, is on behalf of constituents that I've gotten phone calls from regarding the SR 22 process related to driver's licenses being reinstated when people have found themselves in situations. So help me understand, because my understanding is there's a lapse or gap in the SR 22 process, so you have to apply for that possibly through your insurance or however you go about it, and then an appointment is set with the DMV, but the counting process of when you qualify as having got the SR 22, how long you have to have it and before the license is reinstated. So the person spoke about sort of having a gap, paying the $300 or $500, whatever the fee is, the hundreds of dollars on the fee, having it expire, going back to get the license reinstated to be told, oh, your SR 20, your qualification period expired, you need to do this again. So they find themselves in this really long period of a gap of not having a driver's license and driving around thinking it's getting reinstated only to have it extended even longer and starting all over again. So is there something that can happen with the gap to improve the constituent services through the DMV? Or can you help me understand the SR 22 process?
For the record, Angela Smith-Lamb, Deputy Director. As I understand it, your last question on SR 22 had to do with the hearing process, and I know while they're waiting for a hearing, we do offer a stay on that, and in SR 22, you're not necessarily granted credit for that, so we offer a stay. But the length of time in SR 22 is necessary to the gap in when they get an appointment. Is that the crux of the question? I think, Assembly Member, I'm happy to work with you and follow up with your particular constituent and look into their issues and see how we can improve the process.
Okay, I've had a couple go through it, and I think it's somewhere in there was some understanding or misunderstanding of what's required to resolve the issue. So if you could help me help them, that would be appreciated.
For the record, Angela Smith, definitely will look at the process. I'd be interested in looking at your particular issues so we can dig down into it deeper to see what exactly fell through the cracks so that we can improve the process.
Thank you.
With that, we'll go to Assembly Member Considine.
Thank you for that presentation. I just wanted to kind of do a check-in on the computer modernization program. How is that going? Is the cost still in line with kind of what we were told last year?
For the record, Angela Smith-Lamb, Deputy Director, DMV. So we have determined that the project needs to occur for more years. When we first got an assessment, when we started down our transformation effort path, they tried to complete the project in a very aggressive timeline. The vendor that we used that did the assessment indicated that a project of our size and scope would take 8 years. And so trying to do it in 4 years, we've been trying very, very hard to do that in 4 years, but there's just too much that has to be done for the department, so we know we need more years. So our plan is that we will continue to ask for funds for the transformation effort with vendor support through this next biennium. But our plan is to transition over to our internal IT staff to start to wind down that support. So we did post a roadmap of our core products and when we plan to roll those out on our website, and I'm happy to provide that to the committee, but because it's a little bit hard to find, but I'm happy to send it to the committee so you can look at that.
Thank you. So then are you looking at 2028 or 2029 for that to be mostly completed?
For the record, Angela Smith Lamb, DMV. So our roadmap has us finishing up most of our core vehicle product services through the biennium and starting credentialing your driver's license, your basic core identification services, and then we'll have other small products that will have to continue through 2930.
And then I just had a follow-up to that because you were indicating that the 22% cap on the highway funds that the department receives was increased to the 27% for fiscal years 16 through 26. So I take it did you say 27% is where you want to still keep that cap, or did you say 28%? And I take it with the rollout of the driver's license, that's something that you guys are going to need to seek through the next 2 bienniums.
Thank you for the question, Chair. For the record, Angela Smith Lamb. We're evaluating that. Again, our hope is that we continue to extend the cap to 27% to continue our modernization efforts with vendor support, with a handoff to our internal IT staff. But we anticipate needing some vendor support a little bit past this next biennium, but we don't know how much yet. It's largely dependent on our transition efforts.
Thank you so much for that. And you guys collect a lot of revenue for the state, so it's much appreciated. With that, does anyone have any other questions? Assemblymember Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, you guys, you talked about your revenues rebounding since COVID and everything. Has your personnel rebounded since COVID?
For the record, Angela Smith Lamb, Deputy Director, DMV. Thank you for the question. Yes, in large part due to the waivers from the governor for some minimum qualifications and the raises. Prior to or during COVID or post-COVID, we were looking at around 20% on our vacancy rate. Now we're probably one of the lowest in the state at around 5%.
Thank you. Follow on, Madam Chair? Yeah. Thanks. So we're going to be returning to our pre-COVID hours of operation. That's one of the biggest complaints I get is people cannot get into the DMV. They can't get appointments, when they're convenient. People don't always know when they're going to be able to be off to make an appointment. And I think you guys do have some walk-in appointments available, but it's very inconvenient for the public that, that we serve.
For the record, Angela Smith Lamb, DMV Deputy Director. Thank you for the question. It's a little bit of a complicated question. Even prior to COVID, we haven't increased our staffing levels for our frontline staff for a number of years. Our hope is that our transformation efforts is going to help us combat the need for people to come in, and they'll be able to do more online. But our hours of operation are consistent with what they were pre-COVID. We did transition to a new queuing system for appointments, which has helped us have a better beat on the trends for our appointments. We still have a significant no-show rate for some of those appointments, but we're able to use the trends to basically overbook appointments. But sometimes what happens is if people don't stick to our trends, then wait times get a little bit bigger. But we offer appointments, and I would almost say like a hybrid model. For on Tuesday night, we open up appointments for walk-ins at 8 p.m. And with our new queuing system, we send out notifications regularly to customers to let them know they have an appointment so they cancel it. So that opens up appointments same same day next week. So before the pandemic, and before this new system, our availability for appointments was somewhere around 90 days, and you can get one sometimes next week. The last I looked, it was somewhere around 15 days out for appointments. So I think we're doing a better job. We know there's always work to do, and we're always working to improve that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Assemblymember O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. There's a question in this statement, but I got to lay the groundwork for you. I really appreciate all that you've done, and particularly your enhancements, your IT enhancements, because I regularly would receive, like most of us, complaints about various issues with DMV. Your work has been amazing in trying to deal with all that. I've got to thank you for the service that you are giving. Your whole staff is absolutely, and just to prove it to you, my plate expired yesterday. I had been reminded several times by my attaché, get that done. And as a proof to just how I appreciate, instead of complaining, because I got distracted I was laying in bed last night at about 10:40, 45, it dawned on me. I went into the other room, got on the computer, and by 10:50, my vehicle was legal again, or was legal. And it's just an example of the work you have come over the years, and I greatly appreciate it. And so the question I have is, Ms. Smith, you agree that Sean Seaver and the rest of your staff are absolutely amazing, don't you?
For the record, Angela Smith-Lamb, without a doubt.
Thank you very much, and that's my question, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Assemblymember Nguyen.
Thank you, thank you, Chair. And do you charge legislator extra because we're late? Because we should know better. Sorry, that's not part of my question. Thank you for the presentation. I just want to, looking at the slides, a very detailed slide. There's a lot of information on the fuel taxes. Are there data that you have on the non-fuel vehicles, the registration slides, and what part of the revenue collections that where they're kept at, and in terms of the percentage with the rest of the revenue from these data? Just because I know that now EVs are starting to be becoming very common, and a lot of folks, especially this past winter, it feels like electric vehicles everywhere. Every manufacturer is coming out with at least 2-3 new models. So I wonder how does that affect some of the revenue that we are collecting?
Bethany Musselman for the record. Thank you for the question. So I just want to recap. My understanding of the question is you're wanting to know how we are accounting for the lack of fuel taxes that electric vehicles are paying. Currently, we are not. Currently, electric vehicles pay their registration the same as any other standard vehicle. So it's based on the depreciated value of the vehicle and then a $33 registration fee. And then as they operate on the roads, obviously they're not purchasing fuel, so they're not paying fuel taxes. On the other hand, we are also seeing a decline in fuel taxes collected for vehicles that have much lower MPGs now than they did when the tax rate was set 50 years ago, or hybrid vehicles. So it's a complicated situation, and unfortunately can't be pinned solely on electric vehicles, but it is an issue that does need to be addressed at some point.
Quick follow-up, Chair. So just for my education purposes, in terms of, let's say 100% is total of all vehicles on the road right now, what is percentage of fuel vehicles versus non-fuel vehicles?
Bethany Musselman for the record. Let me pull that up really quickly. We just were looking at that today. So as of January of 2025, we had approximately 2.2 million standard fuel vehicles, 78,000 hybrid, and then 75,000 alternative. And then 62,000 that are electric.
Ooh, awesome. Thank you for that data. That's exactly what I wanted to know.
Excellent.
So thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. And it sounded like those numbers are really high with those that are registering their vehicles in the state of Nevada, because I know some of my constituents get upset, like if their neighbors don't have their vehicles registered in Nevada. But with that, my question for you guys is, I know, and it's more of a compliment, when we were looking at page 2, talk about access to DMV, really having those kiosks in grocery stores down south has been like a benefit. You can instantly get your stickers and whatnot. I assume those kiosks are available throughout our state?
Thank you for the question. For the record, Angela Smith-Lamb, Deputy Director. That's correct. We have them statewide. We partner with a vendor who owns the hardware, and they pass through a fee that they charge for use of those machines. But they look at foot traffic to try to put them in areas that would basically get the biggest benefit. So they are all over the state.
Thank you for that. With that, members, do we have any other questions for the Department of Motor Vehicles? Well, thank you. That was a very fast-paced summary on revenue collecting that DMV does. We appreciate it, especially the amount of money you guys are able to collect for our state. With that, we'll go ahead and allow you guys to exit and welcome up our next presenters from Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada. Please make your way to the table, and I know you probably have to switch out some PowerPoints. Go ahead and do that. Whenever you're ready, feel free to begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Bacchus and members of the committee. For the record, my name is MJ Maynard. I am the CEO for the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada. And with me today is Angela Castro. She is Deputy CEO at the RTC, and David Clyde, he's our Chief Legal Officer. And thank you for having us here to present our transit funding challenges and to introduce Assembly Bill 28. At the RTC, our fundamental job is to connect people, and we do that in the many ways that we serve the region. We're the only agency in the United States that houses all of these functions under one roof. We are the public transit provider. We are the traffic manager for the region, so that means we work with NDOT and all the jurisdictions to manage all of their traffic devices on the freeways and arterials. We are the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and again, we work with all of the jurisdictions in Southern Nevada to plan transportation projects within their areas. We are the roadway funding agency, and we also implement and oversee the bike share system in downtown Las Vegas, as well as other cycling initiatives. And it really makes us unique. It makes us efficient because we're, again, under one roof. I think we are really kind of the envy of our peers across the U.S. because we do all things under one roof. So the RTC provides a large range of mobility services to our community. We operate 39 transit routes. Last year, we carried about 52 million passengers, about 1.6 million paratransit customers. We operate between the two, paratransit and fixed route, over 800 vehicles. We launched an on-demand system in the Southwest and West Henderson area. It's very similar to Uber and Lyft. You can hail a bus and we'll come pick you up and take you anywhere within that zone. And we also partner with Clark County School District. We partner with 21 high schools, and last year we provided over 166,000 student trips. We've been one of the fastest growing regions in the U.S. for many years, and so while I think we do a good job providing services, it's been difficult keeping up with the demand. So we like to stay connected to our customers just to find out how we're doing. We were one of the first to implement free Wi-Fi in our buses back in 2016. It allows us to really serve them in real time when they log on the bus. And just a couple of months ago, as part of our customer service questions, we asked them, where do you work and what route do you take to get to your job? And so every single day, there's about 150,000 daily boardings. We heard back in just a matter of 2 weeks from 1,200 transit customers that shared with us over 246. This map is just a small representation of the number of businesses that these 80% of 150,000 transit riders they were using to take public transit to get to work. And as you can see here, literally every single day, our transit system is connecting employees to employers over every corner of the valley. So who are they? Not only did we ask, where you're working, what do you do? They're admin assistants, they're assistant managers, they're retail associates, they're baristas, caregivers, cashiers, porters, chefs, housekeepers, construction workers, convention staff, custodians, dealers, front desk attendants, medical assistants, food servers, show ushers, teachers, and traffic attendants, just to name a few. And so while many people in Southern Nevada don't take public transit, that favorite restaurant that you go to, chances are somebody working there got there by way of public transit. So now that you know a little bit about our customers and about our transit service, we'll talk a little bit about how transit is funded. We like to say we go by a lot of facts and data. So we do a lot of research, and we're curious to know how other transit systems around the United States, how do they pay for public transit? And what we learned was the majority pay for public transit by way of more than one bucket of money. So in many cases, it was a bit of sales tax or property tax or a DMV fee or TNC fee. Here in Southern Nevada, the majority of the transit is funded by sales tax, as you can see here on the slide. Passenger fares, and then we go after every single grant that we can to also assist in meeting our funding needs. And so while this is a great place to start, because we have a long-term sustainability issue on how we fund transit. This today it's just for the short-term covering just what we're able to do today. So by way of context, how did we get here in Southern Nevada to decide how to fund public transit? Back in 1990, the general public approved an advisory question to support transit. The state legislature and the Clark County Commission then approved a 0.25% of sales tax increase effective July 1, 1990. And then in 2002, we went back out again to the general public with an advisory question to support transportation. The state legislature, once again, and the county commission approved another 0.25% sales tax increase that became effective October 1st, 2003. And so if you look on the slide today, we receive 0.3% of sales tax that's dedicated to transit. We haven't invested in mobility, as I just stated, in over 20 years. Again, always curious to know how everybody else is doing it. It's a benefit of working in the public sector is that you share all the information with one another. And so we learned, again, through our research that here in the state, here in Southern Nevada, we invest less per capita annually than most of our peers. If you see on the slide, we invest about $120 per capita annually. If you compare that to the transit systems to the right of that invest anywhere from $91 to $351 more annually per capita, they also offer more than one bus mode. So it could be a commuter rail, light rail, but they invest in more public transit. And if you see here on the slide, Orlando and Las Vegas, where we invest the least, and we're also the only bus-only system in the U.S. But I'm proud of this because I'm proud of the staff of the RTC, the operators that move our community every single day, the mechanics, the folks that do all the hard work. We are consistently ranked by way of the Federal Transit Administration, the National Transit Database. We are the most efficient bus system in the U.S. And we've been the most efficient, but this is the last 8 years now. We have the highest fare box recovery ratio. What does that mean? That means we collect more money at the fare box than any other bus system in the U.S. We have the lowest subsidy. That means we invest less tax dollars in our transit system. However, we also have the lowest operating cost. And if you don't take public transit, people are always surprised to learn that we operate the 12th busiest bus system here in the U.S. Having a town that operates 24/7, our transit system reflects that. So we're a very, very busy system. And again, many thanks to the operators and the mechanics and RTC staff that make it happen. So this is a slide. This is an important slide. We try to, our job is to be extremely transparent with taxpayer dollars. And so, we project out our cash flow models. And this represents our revenues and expenditures. You can see by the bar charts, expenditures to the right. We needed to understand, we've been doing this for a number of years now, where we would be in terms of future funding. So if you look in fiscal 25, 26, and 27, we are projecting that expenditures will exceed revenues. And then beginning in fiscal 28, that's when we would have to dip into our 6-month reserve, which is our RTC board approved policy. But we received, the stimulus skies opened up after the pandemic, and we received about $304 million. And that actually pushed the deficit out. And so we're going to be able to balance our budget in fiscal 25, 26, and 27. However, again, if you look at the slide, the projection from 28 going forward is not where we want to be. It's a deficit we've been coming up to the legislature since 2017, looking for potential solutions for transit. If we're not able to identify a sustainable funding source, we'll have to start cutting service potentially as early as 27 and 28. We anticipate we need about $136 million every year to keep the transit system operating today as it is. So why RTC? You've just dropped this big problem in our lap. Why are you here? We certainly knew back in 2015 that we were going to be here, but again, the pandemic really, the amount of money really pushed that problem out. We had quite a cash surplus, but we also, just in the last 24 months, we've seen a 35% increase in our labor costs, 34% increase in our paratransit service, 35% increase in fuel, a 50% increase in just buying our buses. So it's not I suppose I would say that the transportation industry itself it's also impacted like other industries with inflation, supply chain issues, labor costs. So we've seen an increase, particularly in the last 24 months. We also, back in the day, and this is, when you work in a business that doesn't make money, we were the envy of most transit systems around the U.S. because prior to Uber and Lyft operating in the Roosevelt Quarter, we made money in the Roosevelt Quarter. So the strip service, our due service, we had 2 lines that we operated in the Roosevelt Quarter. We generated at least $6 million in profits. So it was, again, the only transit itself doesn't make money. It's a subsidized system in every city. But that was the one route that made money. When Uber and Lyft started operating in October of 2015, we saw an immediate decline in revenue and ridership, which has continued today. Certainly the pandemic has impacted the service in the Roosevelt Quarter, but that is also a significant reason why we are here where we are today. We also know the last thing we want to do is have to cut transit. We had some hard lessons to learn during the Great Recession, even harder lessons to learn during the pandemic, and that is to ensure that we are operating a lean government agency. That's our job, and so we'll look in-house. We took pay cuts, we did a hiring freeze, we cut contracts. During the Great Recession, we raised fares. We do everything we can, again, to avoid impacting the customer that we promised we would serve. But if we're not able to find the sustainable funding source, we'll potentially have to make those cuts. And so we had our transit planning team put together some of the facts. Okay, here's our deficit. What does that look like? So in fiscal 27, we would have to potentially eliminate 7 routes, partly eliminate 20 routes, reduce RTC on-demand zone by 50%, reduce Game Day Express by 50%. So we currently provide service to Raiders and Golden Knights and UNLV games from 6 locations. We would cut that in half. We anticipate that these cuts would impact about 19% of the population, or 343,000 residents who cannot access transit. In addition, we'll have to also reduce the amount of money we provide to other mobility services in fiscal 27. We try to be a good community partner. We have something called a community mobility grant program, where we try to be that match for many of the nonprofits to provide bus passes. Our match as the Southern Nevada Transit Coalition's Boulder City Service, we are the match for that service rather than NDOT. We certainly partner with adult day care providers. We have a chance to save money there, but that would impact the way that we serve them. Our Veterans Medical Transportation Services, a number of years ago, we received a grant to help our veterans. And once the grant ran out, we couldn't, we just made a decision we wanted to continue to ensure that our veterans get transportation, free medical transportation. We also would have to reduce our on-demand, some of our paratransit ride on-demand services. In fiscal 28, we would now have to eliminate over half of our routes. So, we have 39 routes. Reduce the RTC on-demand service area by over 63%. Eliminate now 2/3 of the Game Day Express, so we would serve 2 locations rather than 6. Reduce the paratransit service area, and I failed to mention in answer if I want to go back in 27. So the law says if you're a public transit provider, you must, by law, provide a complimentary paratransit service within a 3/4 mile boundary. So if you look on the map, you can see that the shaded blue area is where that is where we provide fixed route and paratransit service area. On the outside it is the paratransit. All those red dots represent customers that would lose their paratransit service. And then Ange, go to the next slide. In fiscal 28, it would be more significant in terms of the number of paratransit customers that would lose their service. So, Ange, go ahead. Yeah, with all of these reductions, many key locations, including some providing essential services, will lose transit access, including 7 major hospitals, the VA Hospital Medical Center, Nevada State University, the College of Southern Nevada, Henderson, and Rosemont University. More than a dozen Clark County School District high schools would lose the route that takes the students to that school. Certainly a dozen or more grocery stores, community and senior centers, the OV campus, the Ingolstadt campus, the soon-to-open Northwest campuses for various senior and or low-income housing complexes, many public libraries, most of the region's fulfillment centers, including Amazon, the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and then at several major local casinos. And so I'm going to turn it over now to our Chief Legal Counsel, David Cloudy. He's going to introduce the technical elements of Assembly Bill 28.
Before we dive into
Yes.
the bill, I think we just have like one question on the presentation, and then we can jump into the bill. Is that okay? Okay, we'll go with Assemblymember Flanagan. Never mind, then go ahead and do the bill presentation, and then we'll ask questions about the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. David Clyde from the RTC, for the record. These cuts would enormously impact our residents, visitors, and the local economy. Few people would go unaffected, and for these reasons, we believe it is important for the public to weigh in on the future of transit funding in Southern Nevada. Our top priority for transit funding this session is Assembly Bill 28. This bill would extend the RTC's authority to recommend a sales tax ballot question to the Clark County Board of Commissioners from 2024 to 2028. Authority was first given by the legislature to request this ballot question in 2017, and we were granted an extension back in 2019. And just for clarity purposes, this bill does not expand the definition of tangible personal property, but would authorize the RTC to request a ballot question based on the current definition of the sales tax. And that's the bill. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present this bill, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much, and I kind of forgot to officially open the hearing. So with that, we opened the hearing on Assembly Bill 28. With that, we do have a few questions. I'll start with Assemblymember Haven.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you guys for bringing this forward. I just want to kind of clarify current statute and how this is going to interact, and just hopefully you'll just be able to confirm what we're proposing to do, or what currently is on the books, is the ability for basically the county commission to ask the voters if they want to tax themselves. We're not implementing any tax. The county commission would not. It would simply be the voters could decide for themselves if they feel this is important for their community, correct?
MJ Mayor, for the record, you are absolutely correct, unless, David, there's anything else you want to add.
Thank you. Next, we will go to Assemblymember Flanagan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. It's a probably one of the shortest presentations since I've been here, but since in the vein of what Assemblymember Hafen just mentioned about going to the ballot, and you've actually, if I understand correctly, had the option to do so or the privilege to do so since 2017, why has that not previously come into play until now?
MJ Maynard for the record. So we were given authority back in 2017 to go to the ballot in 2020 and 2022, went back in 19 to extend that to 2024. So in 2020, the pandemic just really put that on hold. And in 2022, we thought we'd have more success at a larger election cycle. In 24, again, a couple of reasons. One, inflation was a hot topic for everybody, but I think more so that we were sitting on a cash surplus of about $300 million, and knew that it would push us out through at least 2027, 2028.
So now we are in a space where if we don't act, the detriment to service, how many customers, or is it like, does it just shrink to like the central core and the outlying areas would suffer?
MJ Maynard for the record, that is a great question. Yeah, so we look at, it's not a random process when we determine what's going to get cut. It's based on productivity and ridership, so it would mostly impact the routes that are on the outlying areas of Clark County.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll wait and see if anybody else has questions.
Thank you so much. We'll go to Assemblymember Considine.
Thank you, Chair. So if this bill were to pass, do you have a time frame as to when you would approach the County Commission to get this on the ballot?
Technically, Dave, I don't know if you want to help me out that one. I mean, I would assume if Clark County, if this is approved, it was something that we would start working on immediately.
So quick follow-up, just to kind of in line, do you believe when you make this request that the commission will approve it?
MJ Maynard for the record, I believe so. I know hope is not a good business strategy, but I think our local electeds are very concerned about the level of transit service we're providing today and what could happen. And I think it really is what to the constituency, what would they like to see?
Thank you so much. Next, we'll go to Assemblymember De Silva.
Thank you, Chair. It's always good to have the RTC in the building. And I don't know if many of you knew here, my dad was an RTC driver, a CAT bus driver. Back then it was called the Citizens Area Transit. He did the paratransit. He drove a couple routes, the 113, the Cary, Smoke Ranch, I think 211. And also, I've used the CAT bus, and I'm sorry, the RTC bus, especially airport access. I know how beneficial it is. But when I was looking at these maps, I know I've had some conversations with you about these routes that are going to be reduced, and they are around the outskirts of the county, of the city. One was the 209, which is a thoroughfare that many of it's the one that services Rancho High School, the high school that I teach at, and also Desert Pines and El Dorado is even off that route. So and I know it's not just myself. Many of my colleagues here also live in these outskirt districts. So my question is that has the RTC actually looked at other revenue sources, to address these shortfalls, or is it going to be specifically this ballot-based tax initiative? Thank you.
MJ Maynard for the record. Thank you for that question. I think we have looked at, we've convened a track committee for the last 10 years, Transportation Resource Advisory Committee, represented by business, labor, academia, chambers of commerce, to help us, find that what is the solution if it's not a ballot question, if it's not sales tax, what would we look to do? And I think it's the same things that we've seen across the United States and how other ballot questions, how transit is supported. We'd have to, again, it is a property tax or it's sales tax, it's a DMV fee, it's a TNC fee. There are various ways, and it's something that if it's not a ballot question, we would look to again, solve the problem here in Southern Nevada, very similarly to how the rest of the United States is funding transit.
Okay, just a quick follow-up. So if the, again, the time limit is enhanced, is there any conversations as to like what kind of a tax it would be? Would it be the sales tax? Would it be maybe a more innovative approach to, dealing with it through maybe another sort of tax base? I mean, just some thoughts on that. Thank you.
Thank you, MJ Maynard, for the record. That was part of the what we tasked the TRAC Commission to do, is to look at anything other than, talking about any kind of tax increase is always a tough conversation. Was there something that we were missing? Was there another way to look at potentially assigning a ballot question to something else? And I think at the end of the day, that, again, based on how transit is funded, nationally, it's not uncommon. It's usually that is the source, or at least single source, or one of the sources. But I think that at this point, and I'll have David Clyde correct me if I'm incorrect. Initially, when we received our ballot authority, it was by way of sales tax. I don't know, Dave, if you want to expand on that.
David Clyde, for the record, that's correct. And in 2017, that authority was limited to sales tax, and this is just an extension of that.
Thank you so much. Next, we will go to Assemblymember Nguyen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to clarify back on your presentation, kind of regards to the bill too, is that I think I remember seeing the grant was around $53 million in terms of the whole pie chart, in terms of all your revenue sources. With all the things that's happening right now, somewhere far back east, does this, changes your timeline at all in terms of trying to see if you can be ahead of the game, or maybe just kind of make it more urgent that the number that you need might be even bigger, just because those federal grants may or may not come? Is that a reality that you're looking at right now?
MJ Maynard, for the record, that is absolutely yes. We've got, there's American Public Transportation Association, their advocacy organization for transit. They're actually on meeting with Congress this week to talk about funding. I think we don't know yet, but any loss in whether it's a discretionary grant opportunity or there's a change to the formula funding that we receive based on our ridership would have an impact. We're not sure tariffs will have an impact on how we procure buses. And so there's still a lot that's happening that we're trying to keep track of. Not sure yet exactly how that's going to have a fiscal impact, but we believe there will be one.
Thank you. So just a quick follow-up. Just want to make sure I put this on the record that if even without even this bill going forward, and if those scenario were to happen, reality would happen, there's really nothing else, right? We're just going to, pun intended, we're just going to come into a halt. Everything just stops because you really don't have recourse on this. If those federal grants were, for example, go away tomorrow.
MJ Maynard, for the record, thank you. The federal grants are extremely important, but at the end of the day, and I've been told this by the U.S. Department of Transportation staff, that local funding matters. And so we only qualify for federal grants if we have the local match. And so if we had more local funding, we could potentially dip into more grants if those opportunities were to present themselves.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Members, Assemblymember Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With taking this to the ballot, I appreciate that it's a home rule issue. Question I have, though, is that going to be a binding ballot question, or will that be an advisory question for the County Board of Commissioners who can overrule the vote?
For the record, David Clyde for the RTC, that would be a binding question based on what the county commission approves to go to the vote of the people. So to answer your question, it would not be advisory.
Thank you so much. We'll go back to Assemblymember Flanagan for a question, and then I have one last question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In vein of the questions about taxes, and then I know you guys are such a forward-thinking organization. So as you look at these solutions, where do we stand on looking at rail if it were something? What does that cost look like? What does that planning look like to move toward rail and get more efficient?
MJ, Mayor, for the record, that's a great question. You know, we've been working on our onboard plan for a number of years now, which includes high-capacity transit, which high-capacity transit could absolutely include light rail. We have something that we've envisioned. We've actually talked about the need for high-capacity transit in Southern Nevada for the last 20 years. I think a lot of, again, has to do with the cost. Today, it costs about $230 million per mile to build a light rail system. But I think if the constituency is there and the funding is available, I think it's something that, again, is one of the fastest growing regions in the U.S. It's something we should always be looking at.
On the record, I just want to say thank you, and if it's a conversation we can continue to have, because connectivity is super important to me, so thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation, some explanations to our questions. I did have a follow-up, though. If this obviously goes through all of the processes through our county commission and is on the ballot, and I'm looking at the maps that you showed us, the different slides of what services would have to be cut back if funding wasn't to fill the gap, because clearly there's a deficit between the amount of revenue that's RTC's receiving to the expenses. Is there an anticipation, kind of following along my colleague's question, of other types of transportation projects that could be included should everything line up and there's additional revenue to come into RTC through a ballot initiative?
MJ, Mayor, for the record, if I'm understanding the question correctly, Chair, if additional funding were identified, again, we've got a plan, it's the onboard plan that includes high-capacity transit. It includes more on-demand services, because it really isn't just about the bus. This is about, and it is about connectivity, ensuring that depending what happens with Brightline and the Boring Company and all the other, the best system, mobility system in the community is one that's integrated. And so it would look at, again, on-demand zones, microtransit, high-capacity transit, bus rapid transit. We've really looked at, and we'll continue to use the model, our paratransit model, for example. We have 5 subcontractors that provide on-demand service, and so we'd continue to look for those kinds of opportunities.
And then I actually have a follow-up to my question. So if this was to go to the ballot and the amount of the sales tax that's set forth there, and if you did go to the maximum amount and that was approved by the county commission and onto the ballot, would that then allow you to, for at some time, obviously have a greater revenue than the expenses to allow these other projects to come forward?
MJ, Maine, for the record, we would have, just by way of having additional funding, would assume that we would have more revenues every year annually than we would have expenditures, and it would keep the transit system, again, sustainable.
Thank you for that. And we have one last question, Assemblymember De Silva.
Thank you, Chair. Just very quickly, again, I have a question about the services and this reduction on services. I know one of them was the paratransit. Again, this is a very important service that we utilize for folks with disabilities, people who have mobility issues, older, residents in our city. So my question really is, like, how do we, decide which routes we're going to be cut and which services we're going to be diminished, over time? Thank you.
MJ Maynard, for the record, and again, that's a great question, because when we talk about complementary services, the law says if you have a fixed route transit line, for example, you must provide paratransit within that 3/4 mile boundary around that transit system. And so when, for example, during the Great Recession, when we had to shrink our transit, we had to make a lot of transit cuts, it reduced our transit service. So it literally aligns itself within a 3/4 mile boundary. Even at the time back in 2008, again, it's tough all the way around. It's something that we don't want to do, we don't like to do, because to your point, for folks that have less choice to move around the community, paratransit is a lifeline. But it's strictly, it's an ADA law, it's a 3/4 mile boundary. So if a transit route shrinks, then you'll find that paratransit service shrinks with it.
Thank you. With that, we will go ahead and allow you guys to get off the dais and start here in Carson City with those coming up to the dais to give testimony in support of Assembly Bill 28.
Thank you, Chair Backus, members of the committee, Warren Hardy. I am here representing myself today. I have served on the track committee that was referenced since I think its inception, and I've been chair since 2022. It was my sincerest hope that when we met as the track committee this last time that we could talk about sort of aspirational things, sort of piggybacking on to what Assemblymember Flanagan brought up, that we could bring our transit system into the new age where it belongs. I think we have a difficult time referring to us as ourselves in Southern Nevada as the capital, or the entertainment capital of the world, when we have such a limited transit system. But alas, it was not to be. When we looked at the funding and the revenue that was available, I've gotten teased a little bit because I've called the situation an existential threat. Not just to public transit, but to the economy of Southern Nevada. I think a lot of us get lulled to sleep a little bit because the RTC does such a fantastic job in what they provide, that we don't see the glaring challenges. We don't see the fact on a day-to-day basis that they're really doing it with smoke and mirrors. So again, these hopes I had of aspirational, light rail is one. When we made the decision not to do light rail, I publicly, as chairman of TRAC, just my personal opinion, called that a generational mistake. I believe it is a generational mistake. We did it because we didn't have the money. We didn't recommend it because we didn't have the money. I was an advocate for just waiting till we do. We've got to increase. And so this bill before you today is the existential part. Without being able to go back to a vote of the people and resecuring these dollars, we're not going to be able to provide the services we're currently providing. There is nothing aspirational in this. The last track committee that met as recently as just before session made recommendations that we look into alternative fundings and other ways to provide permanent funding and to do some of the aspirational things we need to do. AB 28 is the finger in the dam, stopping us from really a catastrophe. I don't know how else to put it, and I was delighted to hear the comments and the questions from particularly Assemblymember Flanagan, Assemblymember Wynn, and Assemblymember De Silva, that we really need to do more, because we really do. If AB 28 doesn't pass, as some of my friends in rural Nevada say, we might as well put out the fire and call the dogs, because we're not going to be able to do what we need to do. And there's so many people relying on this transit system to get them to work, to get them to school, for recreation, for their family. I know I might be sounding hyperbolic and like Chicken Little. It really is this dire. And I appreciate the presentation of the RTC, but the house is on fire, Chair Backus, and we really need help on this. Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the track process if the chair pleases.
I think we're good.
Good afternoon, Chair Backus, members of the committee. For the record, Danny Thompson. I'm here representing myself. I'm the vice chair of the TRAC committee. I've been involved with TRAC since its inception. I've been involved with the RTC since 2002. I can tell you that the RTC of Southern Nevada is one of the best run agencies in the state as far as they're frugal with the money, they're effective, they're efficient, and they make every penny count. And I can tell you that, you know, all of the hearings that we had, I know you all got just a very short flavor for where we are, and I would tell you that Mr. Hardy is not kidding. Literally, the house is burning down. This bill has to pass. We must have time to come up with another solution, or you all then are going to be hearing from your constituents, because it's that bad. This is just one of the problems. I don't want to get into all the other stuff, but it is dire, and I can't tell you how strongly I feel the same way that Chairman Hardy does, that literally the house is burning down, and we need this time. This will give us time. You know, I was involved with the first campaign, and as I recall, we spent $5 million on that campaign, and it wasn't easy. And so we need this time to come up with solutions so that we don't have to do the draconian things that MJ talked about. But if we don't have this bill, that's going to start, because it has to. So I would urge you all to support this bill. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Backus and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Nick Schneider, Director of Government Affairs for the Vegas Chamber. The Vegas Chamber has been a member of the TRAC Committee since 2015, and services like those provided by the RTC are critical for our local economy. Both our large and small businesses rely on transit to keep our employees, customers, and suppliers moving. This bill contemplates a way to help provide an additional tool to solve these funding issues, and as such, we do ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Alejandro Rodriguez, Nevada System of Higher Education. NCHE is in support of AB 28. This legislation can help ensure that transportation infrastructure meets the evolving needs of our communities. And as you just heard in the presentation, the efficient transportation systems are vital for our students, faculty, and staff commuting to our NCHE institutions. So we urge your support. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Tia Smith, T-I-A-S-M-I-T-H. I'm a policy attorney with ACLU of Nevada. We see the availability of paratransit as a civil rights issue, so we support this bill and we urge the committee to do so as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Mary Przinski. I'm here representing SNAP, the State of Nevada Association of Providers. These are providers of services for the intellectually disabled, and I'm also representing Opportunity Village. And it's very interesting that this bill is being heard today on Developmental Disabilities Awareness Day. And I know that you saw a lot of our clients, and some of them testified, and we're very proud of them, but we're in support of this bill. Thank you very much. It's very important to our group. Thank you.
Good evening, Brian Wachter, Senior Vice President of the Retail Association of Nevada. I heard earlier in the presentation that this bill did not redefine tangible retail sales, and we really should redefine tangible retail sales, which would solve a lot of problems for a lot of people. But if we can't do that, then you should at least pass AB 28 and give the chance of the voters to be able to go back, answer the question, and decide what kind of funding they want for their transportation system. Thank you, and we urge your support.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the committee, for the record, Kelly Crompton, representing the City of Las Vegas. The City of Las Vegas is in support of AB 28. Transportation projects and transit operation costs are rising, while proceeds from traditional fuel tax funding sources are declining, leaving a gap in funding for crucial investments in load roadways and transit facilities. AB 28 would allow us to better invest in our regional transportation systems across all modes of transportation, ensuring improved transit service, mobility, and access. The investment made possible by AB 28 to improve the transportation network, however, also helps to build the regional economy through job creation and business development. New transportation projects and continued transit service is often followed by significant investment in adjacent retail, commercial, and residential development. This is something that the City of Las Vegas has seen firsthand, particularly in our medical district and in our vibrant arts district in Brewery Row, where former industrial zones have transformed around multifaceted complete streets into hubs and creativity and community. We urge you to pass this legislation. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. For the record, David Cherry, Government Affairs Manager for the City of Henderson. Public transit is essential to the residents of Henderson and our regional workforce. Maintaining robust funding is a key to keeping transit reliable and maximizing efficiency in the system. Restrictions in transit service would affect the ability of users in Henderson and other areas of the valley to use public transportation to connect to healthcare, jobs, school, parks and recreation centers, and maybe most importantly, their family, friends, and loved ones. So for these reasons and more, we support AB 28. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Wesley Harper. I am the Director of Government Affairs for the City of North Las Vegas. This is critical legislation, and the City of North Las Vegas is firmly in support. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Bacchus, members of the committee. Joanna Jacob, JACOB, no S, please, on behalf of the Assembly Revenue Committee. And yes, I know my name is previously misspelled, so I say no S. I am here on behalf of Clark County in favor of giving RTC the flexibility to bring this very important issue and their recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Andy Donahue, the Labor Employers Cooperation and Education Trust. Glad to join this wonderful effort of support today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. With that, we will go down to Las Vegas. And feel free to begin. I think Ms. Brooks, I don't know who's there first, so feel free to begin and kick us off in Las Vegas for testimony in support of Assembly Bill 28.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Shondell Newsom. I'm a United States Air Force veteran, a Nevada resident for the past 37 years, and the owner of Some New Marketing, a family-owned small business that provides marketing, branding, and grassroots engagement services to companies and organizations seeking to connect with various communities, specializing in underserved neighborhoods, areas of persistent poverty, and communities of color. Our Some New team is fully immersed and connected to our community and to many. Public transit is a lifeline to work, education, church, and essential services. We have been servicing the state of Nevada communities and been an active employer for 19 years. I personally used public transit in Southern Nevada during my 10 years in the Air Force and after my enlistment. A few of my employees and employees of my colleagues utilize transit today. For those who already have the odds stacked against them and face challenges on a daily basis, transportation should not be another barrier. If the RTC is forced to cut service, this would be keenly felt by many who are already struggling with maintaining steady work or putting food on the table. As a person who was a single father in the United States Air Force raising 4 kids, I am one of those people who have experienced a lot of those barriers. So that's why I'm here today to ask for your support for Assembly Bill 28.
Good evening, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, Catherine Francisco, President of the AEPI Chamber of Commerce of Southern Nevada. I am here today to express our support for Assembly Bill 28. The AEPI Chamber proudly represents over 300 members, many of whom are small business owners who depend on employees and customers who utilize public transportation. This is especially true along Spring Mountain Road, where Chinatown is located. In fact, we have a business owner who has relied on public transportation for over 10 years. Business owners in Chinatown have shared that 50% of their revenue comes from tourism, and the majority of those tourists use public transportation to reach Chinatown. If the RTC is forced to reduce transit services due to a funding shortfall, the impact will be strongly felt within our community, particularly in terms of economic development. On behalf of the AEPI Chamber of Commerce, I urge you to support Assembly Bill 28 so that RTC can continue providing this vital service, not only to our residents, but our visitors as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the committee and Madam Chair. I am Dr. Constance Brooks, Vice President of Government and Community Engagement for the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. With over 31,000 students in our student population, UNLV stands as the institution within the INCHI system that has the largest number of full-time students. This means that public transit is a lifeline for our Rebel community. Our faculty also enjoy public transit. And so we find that this bill and the things that it is trying to accomplish to be something that we would like to support because it also supports college access. We think of transit in ways of providing greater access to mobility for our students, but in a less obvious way, this funding would also support increasing the college-going culture rate within Nevada and would also help to increase college access in general. And so we urge your support for Assembly Bill 28. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, Chair Backus and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Ann Barnett. I'm the CEO for the Nevada Contractors Association. I also have the privilege of serving on the track committee of RTC, where we have identified the critical need for continued investment in the transportation infrastructure. Critical being a key word. And as you can imagine, AB 28 is essential to ensuring that funding mechanisms remain available for future transit projects. These funding mechanisms impact our contractors by providing ongoing job opportunities, sustaining local businesses, and strengthening our workforce. Reliable transit options help address workforce shortages by making it easier for people to access job sites and career opportunities in construction. But beyond that, this investment impacts the entire community we all live and rely on, as you heard. A strong transportation system supports not just the businesses, but families, workers, medical support, and just the overall quality of life for Southern Nevada. Reducing congestion, improving safety, and helping make our region more attractive for economic development and future investment should be a shared commitment for all of us. I urge your support for AB 28 to help keep Nevada moving forward. Thank you.
Hello, hello, members of the committee. My name is Vinny Spottleson, and I am speaking today as the chair of Sierra Club's Toyabe chapter. It is great to see so many friends up there in the assembly, as well as so many friends supporting this bill from our community down here. One or two things happens when the transit service is cut. Either somebody has the ability to take a car, which means more congestion, more pollution, worse air quality, and more damage to our climate, which means more damage to our water resources that are dwindling. Or they can't make the trip at all, which has a deeper economic impact, could mean loss of a job, the missed appointment, or something like that. So for these reasons, we, Sierra Club, we definitely support and we see the sales tax as a part of the mix for the future, I mean, to continue really the transit that we have. But I do want to address just a quick moment, Assembly Member Flanagan, excuse me, brought this up, as have others, that we can do more as well. And sales taxes are somewhat regressive. You know, I think, again, we believe that this is a part of the mix. But we'd like to see more revenue from more sources that don't disproportionately impact working class people in the future as well. And I have a ton of ideas on those, as well as many other people do. So we'd be happy to talk about those in the future. But for now, we have to get this done. So I thank you for the support.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Minja Yan, MINJIAYAN, and I am a member of RTC Southern Nevada's Transportation Resource Advisory Committee, and I'm here to support AB 28. As our state population continues to grow, we see increasing pressure on our roads and public transit systems. Traffic congestion and commute times are getting worse. And this bill is not just about a transportation issue, it is about an economic development issue. We cannot do economic development without having a robust public transit network system. So I want to share a story with you how I recently met a video game design and production company in Southwest Las Vegas. They have 30 employees, but only 6 of them own a car. The average age of their employees is 21. Highly skilled, extremely intelligent. Almost all of the employees, including their founders, are college dropouts, but they make 6 to 7 figures a year. They live in a nearby apartment buildings next to their office, and they walk or take the bus to go to work and grocery stores and other places in Southern Nevada. And they're now expanding to a bigger office and planning to hire even more young people to join their team. Public transit networks connect laborers and businesses, bringing people to jobs and creating more economic development and real estate development activities along transit hubs. And it also creates long-term positive economic impact to attract more businesses, jobs, and investments to our region. And Nevada is competing with other states to attract young, good talent and companies in different industries. We're not the only city in the country that can host conventions and sports games. Other cities like Orlando and Phoenix can do all of those, and they have a robust public transit system that connects all of the economic hubs universities, libraries, stadiums, and airports. We cannot cut public transit service. We need to have a robust public transit network to maintain our economic competitiveness. So I urge the legislators to support this bill and help us in our next generation to take a bold step forward to a more connected, forward-thinking future of our state. And as someone who grew up in Las Vegas and is a proud Nevadan, I want to emphasize that our cities and state were not built by thinking small. The question is not whether we can afford to invest in public transit, it's whether we can afford not to. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jean Payton, and I'm here to talk about Assembly Bill 28. First off, I'd like to share that I am a transit user and have been since 1994. I use primarily paratransit, but I am also quite familiar with the city bus routes and do take those on occasion. And one of the things that's so important to me as I speak to you today is to tell you that without the public transit system here in Las Vegas, I would have missed out on a lot of opportunities because I can't drive. I would not have been able to go to work. I would not now be volunteering regularly with Blind Connect, which is a nonprofit here in Southern Nevada. I wouldn't have been able to attend meetings and classes and met friends places and done all those things that everybody else does. And I look at public transit, at least for me, as really freedom and independence. And I think that there are many people here in Las Vegas, thousands still ride the bus every day, that without this transportation would be just left at home without any resources. They would be not working, they would be not participating in their community, and it would be a terrible loss. I worry about the future as well. We are increasing housing here. We're building new houses. We're getting lots of new industry in, lots of new event centers, and we're already stretched with our budget for transit. And I think it's really important that AB 28 be sent forward so that we can fund these opportunities and not reduce service and hurt the people that we're serving currently. So I would encourage you and urge you strongly to move this AB 28 forward. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. For the record, my name is Heidi Dexheimer, Dexheimer. I'm an Executive Vice President of GCW Engineering. We're a Nevada headquartered engineering firm, and I'm also honored to be a member of RTC's Track Committee. I'm also speaking in my capacity as the Vice President of the Nevada chapter of the American Council of Engineering Companies, which represents your engineering community here in Nevada. We all have seen the data today on how stretched thin our funding resources are for transportation and transit. As a community, we need to maintain all available options to address these challenges. AB 28 maintains one of these options for at least another 4 years and gives MJ and her team options to fill the gap. We, on behalf of Nevada's engineering community, I ask for your support of AB 28 today. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lisa. For the record, my name is Lisa Popovsky, and I am the Director of Senior Services for Jewish Family Service Agency. Today, I'd like to express my support for Assembly Bill 28 because I know firsthand that access to public transportation is truly a lifeline for individuals and the families that we serve. We heard just a minute ago from one of the consumers that said that transportation is really a form of independence, and we see that very frequently. We serve about 1,200 low-income older adults and disabled individuals each month. Most of those individuals do not have independent, reliable transportation and depend on us connecting them with that. We know that access to transportation also plays an important role in keeping people out of institutions, out of nursing homes, out of assisted livings, and allowing them to live independently where they want to live. Many of our older adults in Las Vegas do not have family support to provide that transportation, and the RTC helps to provide that and keep seniors independent and in their own homes. I believe that cuts to funding would decrease independence and increase health risks to our seniors in our community, and I am in strong support of Assembly Bill 28.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. For the record, my name is Katrina Heineking, Senior VP for TransDev North America. I'm here today to express my support for Assembly Bill 28. I've had a career in public transit for nearly 30 years and served in cities small and large, and I can tell you that a strong transit system supports a strong workforce, and when workers thrive, business and communities thrive, which is one of the reasons that I believe that the Southern Nevada community can't afford to let transit funding slip away. The transit operators that TransDev employs through our partnership with the RTC here ensure that people get to work, school, medical appointments, as you've heard, and much more. If funding's cut, it could have devastating impacts, of course, not on the riders alone, but also the workers that make the system run. With the financial implications that have been shared for 27 and 2028, we're looking at a reduction of possibly 450 transit drivers, and that doesn't even include the supervisors, dispatchers, maintenance crew, and other essential staff that support the system. And to give you some sort of scope, TransDev, in its partnership with the RTC, employs around 2,400 employees to operate and manage the RTC services, which accounts for over $150 million a year in local wages and fringe benefits. These employees are neighbors and members of the community, volunteers, and they've made their career in public transit. We have many, many employees that have been in their public transit role for 10, 20, 30 years or more, serving the RTC, and even generations where more than one generation works to provide the services. If no funding resolution, I fear that a reduced workforce would likely cripple the ability to provide reliable service and potentially leave thousands, without transit that they need, and have a ripple effect on local businesses. I urge your support and thank you for your time and attention.
Hi, my name is Brandon Ewing. I'm a resident of Las Vegas, Nevada. I've lived here for about 10 years. I've been a real estate agent in that time for about 10 years. I've also driven Lyft. And I'm also representing my wife, who told me to come down here because she uses the transit system every single day. She has a great government job downtown. We live in the northwest corner of Las Vegas in Centennial Hills. It's about a 15-mile drive downtown. And luckily, she's able to take the Centennial Express straight from the park and ride straight downtown where she works. We're not your typical transit users. Together, our income is well over 150 grand a year, but we love using transit. Even though we have 3 cars and two teenage drivers, it would be a real shame to lose this opportunity. I got here with a whole bunch of notes, thinking maybe I would wax poetic, and I'll try to keep it a little bit shorter than that. But on my drive down here, I realized that we're getting ever closer to the dystopic nightmare that we all seem to hate when we're driving in our little metal boxes down the street. I think that the transit system is currently missing a lot of opportunity, and it's due to lack of funding. If you leave the airport today, good luck finding the sign from your airplane to the bus. There's one that I know of, and it's at the very last door from the airport. Good luck. Our entertainment capital of the world claim is quite funny, ironic when you consider that internationally, our transit system is by far much lacking from what we can see anywhere else on the planet. So I think that giving us the opportunity to vote, to tax ourselves and bring our transit system to where it needs to be should definitely be left to the local voters. And I look forward to your support for AB 28. That's it. Thanks.
Good afternoon, legislators. My name is Dan Hyde, Hyde. I'm representing both myself and the fact that I am on the Transportation Access Advisory Committee for Regional Transportation Commission. I have been on that committee for now 16 years. We have seen during that period of time such incredible statistics about the need for an efficiently operating RTC transit operating system, whether it's fixed route or paratransit. What I can tell you is from my own personal experience, my family, I have a sister that is both physically and mentally disabled. Without the paratransit that she has been accustomed to using for the last 9 years, she is able to conduct herself in a manner that gives her an independent lifestyle. She is able to convene or to take advantage of the various programs that are available to keep her stable. The condition that she has is not curable. And that is, unfortunately, what a lot of paratransit riders have to deal with. What the paratransit provides is a system to keep people stable. And that, I think, is a key phrase that a lot of people are ignoring. One other thing is, if there were to have draconian cuts in paratransit and regular transit operations, what you would see is a cost transfer that would actually increase costs to the taxpayers over time. What I mean by that is the cost to operate a transit system is not cheap, and costs will continue to go up. That is a fact of life. But on the other end, if you cut this transportation concept, particularly paratransit, what you do is you transfer that cost to the emergency services, like paramedics, emergency rooms, and hospital. How do I know that? Because I've experienced it in my family. That was very realistic and very, very emphatic. It lasted for a period of about 10 years before she got involved in the paratransit operation. So I believe it is a compelling argument that has a lot of merit in AB 2028, and that I would be more than happy to help advocate for its support, because I believe a lot of people that I know would be very much supportive if they knew the true facts of the way things operate. So I encourage all of you to support AB 28. Thank you very much.
Hello, Chair and committee members. My name is Ron Williams, and I am a bus driver. I've been a bus driver for 17 years. I'm also the executive board member for ATU Local 1637. I see firsthand how many people rely on this service. I do, basically by me being also a trainer, I do all the routes. I get to interact with all the community every day. It isn't just about transportation, it's about how our community is moving. And without these fundings, not only will the rider suffer, but the operators will suffer too. As y'all know, a lot of operators actually catch the bus to work. Like me, thousands of other employees that maintain our transit service. I take pride in serving this community, but we can't provide the level of support this community needs without the resources of Assembly Bill 28. That's why we support it, ATU and all the drivers. Thank you.
I think I might have clicked that too early. Sorry. But my name is Leah Ina Hamilton. I'm an 18-year-old college student. I am on behalf of me, my family, and also just the other students our age. And I just wanted to spew my testimony to say that RTC, specifically RTC On Demand, has been the difference between homelessness and not for our family. It is life-saving work. It is a service that we need to continue to support for funding. As we know, our generation aren't hitting the milestone markers that make the transition into adulthood. And public transportation has helped foster independence amongst the youth and me as well. As somebody who did not have the money to afford car insurance when I was younger, the only way that I was able to get to my job was by RTC On Demand. And that is the case for lots of people my age that I do know, that being able to take the bus and the buses running properly is the difference between them having a job and not, and being able to afford their bills and not. So that is why I believe that we should please push for the support of Bill 828.
Thank you for all those testifying in support in Las Vegas. We will move to the phone lines. AVH, do we have anyone on the phone lines wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 28?
To testify in support of Assembly Bill 28, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Again, if you wish to testify in support, please press star 9. Chair, we have no callers choosing to testify in support at this. Oh, wait, one moment.
Hello?
You are on, sir. Go ahead. Can you also state and spell your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Aaron Harris, Aaron Harris. Good afternoon, Chair Baucus and committee members. Like I said, my name is Aaron Harris, and I'm here today to express my strong support for Assembly Bill 28. It's critical that we come up with a more durable form of funding for our transit system. Public transit is an essential service that benefits you, whether you ride the bus or not. Every person riding the bus is one less car clogging up our roadways. It is unconscionable that we would even be discussing making cuts to our transit service. We wouldn't find it acceptable to let the water taps run dry, and we similarly can't let the buses stop running. Our transit system really is a miracle, with the most efficiently run transit system in the country. Really, we should be talking about doubling our transit service, as this would more than double our potential ridership and economic development. Our transit system has not kept up with our population growth, and the proposed cuts would be devastating and also personally catastrophic. I use public transit to visit the many entertainment amenities our city has to offer. I use it to access more affordable groceries, and I use it to expand my social circle and meet people around the valley. The cuts proposed would completely cut me off from the transit network by nearly 5 miles. I would see the value of my property go down as I live near the intersection of 2 bus lines that connect me to 4 different institutions of higher learning. I would struggle to make ends meet as I would struggle to find potential roommates without any nearby access to transit. Ultimately, if the transit was cut to the degree that is proposed, if we don't find alternative sources of funding, I would have no choice to relocate, and more than likely that possibly could be even relocating out of the valley. People I know that have incidents that left them partially sighted have forced them to relocate to places with more robust public transit. These are not just people that are struggling to make ends meet. These are people that are in good paying jobs working in the tech industry. And believe it or not, a lack of robust public transit network is part of the reason that we struggle to attract higher paying jobs to the valley. Every metropolitan area that you see that has high skill, high education jobs also has a robust public transit system. And so that's why it's essential that we continue to ensure that we have strong, solid funding for building a world-class transit network for the world's entertainment capital. So for these reasons, and as well as environmental reasons, I strongly support AB 28. Thank you.
Thank you so much. AVH, I believe that was our only caller in support.
Yes, Chair, there are no more callers on the line at this time.
Oh, thank you so much. With that, we'll go ahead and move to take testimony in opposition of Assembly Bill 28. We'll start here in Carson City. Okay, we'll go back to Las Vegas. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 28? AVH, I think you said no one else was on the phone, but has anyone joined the phone line wishing to give testimony in opposition of Assembly Bill 28?
Chair, the public lines are open and working, but there are no callers to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you so much. We'll finally move to those who are neutral. Is there anyone in Carson City wishing to give testimony in the neutral to Assembly Bill 28? Seeing no one moving to the front, we'll move back to Las Vegas. Sir, take your time coming up, but we're taking testimony in the neutral to Assembly Bill 28. And feel free to turn the mic on when you're ready.
Yes, my name is Ed Uhling, Uhling. Unfortunately, I didn't hear the early part of this discussion. I was in another meeting, which is here in Las Vegas, which is the committee to have a regional transportation system. It seems like that should have been combined with this meeting because this meeting obviously deals with transportation. And apparently what is being discussed is the financing of this. The problem that this agency has is that it doesn't have it really doesn't work its purpose. Although it does, it's one of the few transit systems in the country that actually makes some money. But it could be improved if the zoning were different. If the county would put apartment buildings along the main transportation routes, it would increase the number of bus riders and reduce the need for extending the service into unpopular or low populated areas. So the politics are working against the ability to really create a fantastic bus system here in Las Vegas. As far as the funding is concerned, the obvious place for funding, since the main beneficiary of the system is the casinos, is to increase the tax on gaming. The city has, Nevada has the lowest gaming tax in the entire world, 6.75%. Last week I was just in Macau, where the gaming tax is 40 or 45%, and 3% of that goes directly to the people of Macau. It's a totally different environment, and so that's the place to look for money. And if the service were made free, which I think it should be, to really encourage people to take the buses, then do it. Also, neither in this meeting or in the other meeting does it appear that anyone is considering the underground tunnels that are being created by the boring company. If you would only request to the boring company the original plan of what they had, you would really be impressed by how that system would work. Unfortunately, it's not being built like that. It's going to be much slower, much more expensive, it's not going to work.
Mr. Uhling?
The original plan is fantastic. And look at that. I'm sure none of you have seen this original plan. Please look at it, the film that they made to create this system.
Mr. Uhling, thank you. I was going to tell you to wrap it up, but what we'll go ahead and do is we'll note your testimony in opposition to Assembly Bill 28. I don't believe there's anyone else.
No, I'm not in opposition. I don't see myself in I want to see the system grow, but since I didn't attend the meeting, that's the reason I'm here as a neutral person.
So you are neutral. Okay, we'll keep you as neutral. I apologize. I thought you said you had missed your spot, so I was trying to place you in the right spot. We'll keep you at neutral then, sir. With that, I don't see anyone else in Las Vegas wishing to give testimony in neutral. AVH, has anyone joined the phone lines wishing to give testimony in neutral to Assembly Bill 28?
Chair, there are no callers to testify in neutral at this time.
Thank you so much. And with that, would the presenters like to come up and make any closing remarks?
MJ Mayor, for the record, thank you so much for all your time today.
Thank you so much. With that, I can go ahead and close the hearing on Assembly Bill 28. And for our last agenda item, I am now going to open up the meeting for public comment. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to give public comment this evening? We'll go ahead. We'll go back to Las Vegas. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to give public comment this evening? AVH, has anyone joined the phone line wishing to give public comment this evening?
If you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers choosing to provide public comment at this time.
Thank you so much. And with that, our next meeting will be on Thursday afternoon, and that concludes our meeting this evening. We are adjourned.